Well, morning everyone, and welcome back to the vlog. And today in this episode I wanted to talk a little bit about how to take that perfect image. But first let's address the elephant in the room here, or in this case the elephant in the Cairngorms. If your idea of a perfect image is that everybody likes it, you've already set yourself up to fail. But if your idea of the perfect image is something that when you come away from a beautiful place or whatever it is you're photographing, you come away with the image that you wanted, then that's the perfect image. If you're someone that likes to browse through competition entries, photography competition entries, whether it's landscape photographer of the year or wildlife photographer of the year, it's how often do you look at every image and like every one? And that's because photography, like any other art form, is completely subjective. One person's favourite image is unlikely to be somebody else's. And so it's really important to be photographing for you and not for everyone else. But there are definitely some things that you can do to help you come away with that perfect image. What's caught my eye just walking around this wee lochen is these beautiful two pine trees just on the banks on the other side. I don't know if you can see those from the camera, but we've got this pine tree just on the edge of the loch that the branches come over and are actually resting on top of that frozen water. And we've got the hills behind with the snow and that beautiful dark grey cloud that is swamping the hill there. And just to my left, we've got this old pine, which has now no longer got sort of its branches and its needles, with one sat next to it. Now I'm kind of thinking possibly that might make a nice panoramic view, sort of letterbox view, or whether just those pines on the side with the hill behind will be enough. So I'm probably going to take a couple of shots. I'm going to use my 70 to 200mm lens for this first shot and see if I can get in as close as possible to those two pine trees on the banks. Now it's just started to snow a wee bit, so we've got a little bit of texture into sort of our scene. I quite like it when you've got snow coming down just in front of those dark pines. But that hill in the background just keeps disappearing with the grey skies. Now the light is incredibly flat, so it's difficult to work with, but it really does actually conjure up the real sort of cold feel that we've got here. So my first shot, I'm going to zoom into those pines across the other side, and I'll show you what I'm looking at on the back of the camera. So let me show you how I've set up the composition for this image. You can see that I've got my pine on the right there, just about a third of the way in from my right hand side. The branches sweep over and they just about finish on my third from my left hand side. And then this is cropped to when we're actually filming, so it looks like I'm quite low to the bottom here. But this is the bottom of the bank over the other side. I've just positioned just to my lower third. So I'm really using my rule of thirds here. Now, Unfortunately, because it's so bright, I'm losing that mountain behind, which is just giving me this blank open space, and I lose the balance from this image. It's nice when the snow's coming down because it gives me a little bit of texture, but I think that this image will fall short because without that hill, I lose the balance of the image and I've got too much white space on the left-hand side. But I'll wait around, I'll see if that sky clears, but still it will be a nice image. I've just really lost that balance. So I'll take a couple of shots. I'm on my 70 to 200mm lens, about 100mm, and I've got a fairly quick shutter speed, about an 80th of a second, because I want to capture some of that snow coming down just to add a little bit of texture into my image. So anyway, I'll take a few shots and well, here's the image. Now what I've done for this next shot is I've come further back so that I can utilize this pine branch that comes in front of me here, and I'm using that to fill the gap that was on the left hand side of my image. I'll just show you on the back of the camera here that you can see we've now got this branch which fills the space, the void that we had before, and just by chance this wee branch just comes down and actually fits so nicely into that gap, and we've got the mountain behind. So an alternative shot. Now the other one might look nicer because with the snow and it gives it that real cold space around it, but this is an alternative to that image and it's utilizing what we've got here just to fill that space. I'm probably going to have to focus stack because that branch is just right in front of me and I'm shooting on the long lens. So I'll focus in on that branch and then I'll focus in on my background there, and again, here's that shot. So my first tip is to learn the basics from your camera. Learn where the settings are, learn how to make exposure compensation changes, how to adjust the ISO, the shutter speed. The more familiar you are with your camera, the more likely that you're going to be able to respond quickly to a scene and come away with that image. And learn how ISO and shutter speed and aperture affect your images. Think about what it is that you want to come away with. How will changing those settings affect your scenes? And take control of your camera. If you're making the decisions, you're more likely to come away with the images that you're after. But if you leave it down to the camera, then there's a chance that you're not going to come away with that perfect shot. What's your idea of the perfect image? Let me know in the comments below. My second tip is to learn the fundamentals of composition. It is so important. Look at other artists' work. It doesn't have to be photographers, it could be painters, it could be different medias, but look how they use that rule of thirds to place elements in their images. And look at the times that they actually break those rules. It's so important to know what to include within an image to help build a story and the elements to leave out so that we don't lose concentration from our main subject. You can see now that it's really coming down with the snow. But what I've done is I've come down to the edge of the loch here, and you can see we've got these incredible tufts that are just cracking through the ice here. And some of them have got these beautiful pines on them that have really got some lovely shape. But this one in particular has really caught my eye. I'll just show you what I'm looking at on the back of the camera here. So you can see we've got this stunning tuft that's just coming through the ice there with this lovely shaped pine on top. Now, there is a pine lower down which is getting into my picture. If I lower the camera down, you can see that there's a top of a pine. But what I'm going to do, and this is another advantage of having a handy assistant with you, is I'm going to ask Corin very nicely just to gently bend that pine just slightly over so that it's not in my image, so that I get a beautiful clean shot. And what I love about this image is the way that these circles forming on the ice just take your eye off into the distance. Not quite so clear now because that snow's coming down quite heavy. So what I've done is I've positioned the tree and the grass coming out there just to the left of my image, and then going over to my right hand corner we've got these circles of water that have just not quite frozen over and just leading the eye into the image. And it's just a whiteout. I mean, that's all there is in the image. It's lovely, clean, real minimalistic shot. But by positioning that tree and that tuft down in the left-hand side and the angle that it points at going over to my right, it takes your eye into the image. You see those circles of defrosted water, and that takes you through to the image. What a lovely find. Here's the shot. My third and final tip, and maybe the most important, is look at how the light transforms your image. It doesn't matter what you're photographing, whether it's a portrait, a landscape, light plays such an important part in your final image. It can give you a warm glow to your image, it can give you a cool light, it can produce shadows, and it can highlight your subject. And looking at the way the light moves throughout the day, throughout the year, revisiting scenes at different times will give you a really good idea of when to capture that perfect image. Well, that's it for this episode of the blog. It's been absolutely stunning here. And I came really to photograph sort of the stunning forest, but perhaps most of my images were down by the loch and got some really nice simplistic shots. The snow's been absolutely stunning. So don't forget to leave me a comment below. Let me know, what's your idea of a perfect image? And if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell notification so you don't miss an episode. And I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Thanks for watching.